Revealed. Amazing journey of a family uniting after heartbreaking tragedy just before a wedding. The warm sun hung low over the expansive cornfields, casting golden beams that flickered through the rustling leaves. But for the Thompson family, joy had turned to sorrow overnight. Daniel Thompson, a beloved father and dedicated veteran, had passed away unexpectedly, leaving his wife, 2 children, and a tight-knit community in shock. With backyard barbecues turning into gatherings steeped in grief, his absence was a palpable void. Everyone knew Daniel as a selfless soul, always the first to lend a hand. But now the question loomed: how would they honor his legacy? Emily Thompson stood in front of her bedroom mirror, hands trembling as she adjusted her wedding dress, a beautiful dream now draped in the weight of sadness. The wedding was just 2 weeks away, a day she had once envisioned as a celebration of love, now tinged with grief. Her heart throbbed with conflicting emotions, excitement for saying, "I do," and the crushing burden of her father's death. Was it right to marry her fiancé, Tom, while her family struggled in the shadow of loss? The specter of her father loomed larger than life. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered to herself, "He would want me to be happy," but was it true? Across town, Jake Thompson tightened the wrench around the engine he was working on, but his mind was clouded with frustration. Being Daniel's son had always meant living in the man's shadow, and now grief only magnified Jake's feelings of inadequacy. The headlines ringing in his mind screamed how brave and committed his father had been. Jake's entire life, he wrestled with the expectation to follow in those footsteps. But as he took a deep breath, he felt invisible, overlooked during family gatherings, and the attention on Emily's wedding plans made him bitter. A small town, it seemed, only had room for the happy memories of heroes. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the wedding day approached, the community rallied around the Thompsons. They set up a memorial gathering, a day intended to celebrate Daniel's life. But as the support poured in, it sparked tension. Should they raise funds for Emily's wedding or focus on healing the family? The discussions turned into heated debates in backyards, with muffins and coffee fueling tensions. Confusion reigned in Emily, her desire to honor her father clashing with the weight of his legacy that Jake seemed to bear. Then, during a quiet moment at the memorial, hidden truths surfaced. Emily learned of her father's covert struggles, debt, fears of not providing enough, and an almost desperate love for his family. Jake discovered his father's unfulfilled dreams. As whispered secrets shared in silence crackled like the correcting of dry wood, siblings locked eyes across the room, recognizing the parallel struggles they both faced. Both grief and hope intermingled as they braced themselves, unearthing the raw wounds that had long torn at their bond. Would they emerge as a family united or crumble beneath the strain of expectations? The thought of their father's flaws unveiled a road to forgiveness, yet an unshakable question loomed. Could they confront their shared hurt before love, not just between Emily and Tom, but between brother and sister, might slip away forever? The day of the memorial arrived, bright and suffocating with expectation. Emily stood at the edge of the yard, her eyes drifting over the gathering crowd. Friends and family mingled, many wearing somber expressions, exchanging stories of Daniel that echoed around her like affectionate echoes. She felt like a ghost, drifting amongst the living, unable to fully step into her own reality. Jake leaned against their father's old truck, a cigarette hanging loosely from his lips. He didn't want to smile, but the flurry of laughter bustled around him like familiar wind. It felt dishonest. He fidgeted with the metal in his hands, the engine's remnants staining his palms. A few neighbors approached him, offering their condolences, but he merely nodded, the weight of their pity heavy on his shoulders. Meanwhile, Emily found herself wavering between wanting to retreat and forcing herself to embrace the love surrounding them. She spotted Tom across the yard, engaged in a conversation with her mother. His smile, typically bright, now held in uncertainty. Was he still excited about the wedding? Or had the cloud of her sorrow changed everything? As the sun dipped and shadows stretched across the lawn, Emily felt an overwhelming urge to address the crowd. People had started to share their memories, exchanging tales of Daniel's charm and humor. Each laugh felt like a dagger, slicing through her heart. She stepped forward, the soft grass crunching under her heels as she took a deep breath and raised her hand to get their attention. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice shaking. "Dad loved each and every one of you. He wouldn't want us to be sad, but to remember the love he gave so freely. It's just so hard." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I thought I'd be here to celebrate a wedding, and instead, I'm standing here trying to honor a man who meant everything to me." Jake watched his sister, feeling the throbbing tension in his chest start to loosen. He stepped forward, joining her, his heart pounding. "I think we need to remember not just what he did out there, but who he was to us," he said, his voice stronger than he felt. "He was a father, a husband, and though he didn't always show it, he was also a man who struggled." The murmurs turned quiet as people turned to look at the siblings. They could see the electricity between them, the raw reality of their shared grief sparking something anew in that moment. Emily felt understood. The rift between them seemed narrower. The walls built from expectation began to crumble. Jake's gaze no longer felt like judgment, but companionship. After that heartfelt sharing, Emily pulled Jake aside, away from the crowd. "I've been so wrapped up in my own pain, I didn't see yours. I thought this wedding would be a distraction, but it just feels wrong without Dad." Jake nodded, his frustration draining. "We're both trying to hold everything together in different ways. Maybe we can lean on each other instead of pushing apart." As they embraced, confusion shifted into solidarity. They could honor Daniel together, weaving through their sadness and hopes for the future. But just as a flicker of warmth began to ignite between them, a familiar voice broke the moment. "I need to talk to you too," their mother called out, a serious tone breaking through the comfort of their reconnection. The siblings exchanged glances, a mix of concern and anticipation etched on their faces. What would their mother reveal now? What more could possibly change the course of their lives? Emily's heart raced as she and Jake turned to their mother. She stood a few feet away, her face taut with anxiety. For a moment, the air thickened, and the lively chatter faded into a distant murmur, leaving just the three of them suspended in fragile silence. "Mom, what is it?" Jake asked, his brow furrowing. He could sense something was off, something weighty that required their full attention. Taking a shaky breath, their mother stepped closer, her hands clasped tightly before her. "There's something you both need to know." Her voice quivered, thick with emotion. "Something about your father, the project he was working on." Before Emily's stomach twisted, anticipation growing heavier than the weight of her grief. "Before what, Mom?" she urged, as if saying the words would somehow unravel the truth hiding in the heaviness that filled the air. Their mother hesitated, her face shadowed with pain. "Before he passed, he had been trying to provide for us in ways I never understood. He had sought help, counseling. Things went deeper than I realized." Jake clenched his fists, the fire of indignation bubbling beneath his calm facade. "Help for what, exactly? What do you mean?" She swallowed hard, eyes glimmering with unshed tears. "He struggled with more than just life, you know? He was trying to better himself for us. He was part of a support group for people like him. People dealing with the pressures of being a provider, a father, just everything." Emily felt the ground shift beneath her. "You knew? Why didn't you tell us?" Hurt seeped into her words, her mother's silence over the years stretching painfully thin. It was his journey to share. He was trying to find a way to be vulnerable, to be better, and I didn't want to interfere. Their mother's voice faded as she rubbed her arms as if they physically ached from the truth. For a moment, everything felt too much. The laughter, the stories, the memories of Daniel, they all warped against the backdrop of this new revelation. Each detail she thought she knew about her father now crumbled like old paint off the walls of a cherished home. "He wanted to be strong for us, but he didn't have the answers," Jake said, his voice barely a whisper. "And now we have to face this too?" Emily felt the tears spill out again, but this time they were different. They were tears of a deeper understanding, a painful surrender to a new reality. He wasn't just my dad, he was a man fighting his own battles, in silence. The warmth of solidarity they had felt moments ago now morphed into an icy fear of the unknown. Their mother reached out, fingers brushing against Emily's arm. "It is so much to bear. I know that. We can't change what happened, but we can learn and move forward together." Emily looked at Jake, who wore a mask of conflicted emotions. The bond between them had cracked open, exposing a vastness of shared pain, but also a glimmer of hope. They could choose to dive into the darkness together or retreat further into isolation. "Maybe he was trying to tell us all along," Jake said, staring into the distance. "Maybe we were just too caught up in our own lives to see it." With a deep breath, Emily wiped her face with the back of her hand. The realization of their father's struggles heavy, but oddly liberating. "Then let us vow to do better. For him. For us." They exchanged nods, a silent pact forming in the space between them. But before they could embrace again, another voice interrupted. "Hey, I'm sorry to intrude," Tom said uneasily, his face flushed with concern as he approached them. "I just overheard everything okay?" The siblings exchanged glances again, knowing they had to decide just how much to reveal. "How do you share such an explosive truth?" The air crackled with tension, and Emily swallowed hard, feeling the weight of choices pressing down on her. "We're figuring it out," Emily finally said, her voice steady, though her heart trembled with uncertainty about what came next. What if sharing this truth could lead to healing or unravel something they couldn't control? But what if it tore them apart instead? Tom shifted his weight nervously, casting a glance between the three of them, his brows knitted with concern. "Look, I know I shouldn't have eavesdropped, but it sounded heavy. Are you guys okay?" Emily felt a flicker of irritation mixed with gratitude. Tom was well-meaning, but right now, she barely wanted the weight of their family's burdens shared with anyone else, not even a friend. Yet, here they were, trapped in the rawness of the moment. "Yeah, we're fine," Jake replied too quickly, but the words didn't hold much conviction. "Fine. It sounds like you just discovered a whole other side of your dad," Tom pressed, his blue eyes searching theirs for answers. "You can talk to me if you need to." Emily opened her mouth to respond, then hesitated. What could she say? That they were still trying to absorb the earth-shattering news about their father? Instead of offering a response, she stepped back, crossing her arms as she turned toward the distant sunset. Tom followed her gaze, soaking in the fading warmth of the day. "You shouldn't have to go through this alone," he said quietly, the sincerity in his voice cracking through them like a beacon of light. "I'd stay if you wanted me to, if it helps." Jake weighed the suggestion, his expression softening slightly as he mulled over their options. There was strength in numbers, after all. But Emily felt more tangled than ever, not just in her family's secrets, but also in figuring out what it truly meant to share this newfound truth. "It's just we haven't even wrapped our heads around it yet, Tom," she finally managed. "We're still processing." "Processing," Tom repeated, his gaze steady, a slight nod of understanding. "You know I lost my dad too, right? Not the same way, but it's hard. You feel lost, like you're floating in between who they were and who they weren't. You think everything was fine, and then everything changes." Those words landed differently than she expected. A surge of sadness for Tom hit her, but also a sense of connection. He understood. For just a moment, the icy grip of their shared sorrow melted, connecting them in an unspoken bond. Emily bit her lip. "It feels like there's this huge gap now. Like I don't know him at all, or who I am without him." The honesty in her voice laid bare the weight of her grief. Tears stung her eyes, and she blinked them back fiercely, unwilling to break in front of Tom. Jake's hand found Emily's, squeezing it gently. "We'll figure it out," he said firmly. "Together." Tom stepped closer, his presence comforting rather than intrusive. "You don't have to dive into it all at once. Just take it one step at a time. I'm here for whatever you need." The warmth of their little group wrapped them momentarily in security, but a knot still tightened in Emily's stomach. What if they didn't know how to heal? What if the truth fractured everything instead of solidifying their bond? "Maybe we should look for the group he was part of," Jake suggested suddenly. "Find out what he learned. Who else was there? It might help." Emily nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within her. "And we can reach out to the people he talked to. Maybe hearing from them will give us more perspective." "Yeah, I like that," Tom said, his eyes brightening. "It's like an adventure, even if it's a tough one." As they stood there, a new resolve blossomed. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it might just lead them to the answers they needed. But then, an unsettling thought crept in. The more they unveiled their father's hidden life, the deeper they could potentially dig into wounds they weren't ready to confront. What else had been hidden beneath the surface? Wait, what if we discover something even worse? Emily whispered, her heart racing at the thought. As the dusk deepened around them, the darkness ahead felt both daunting and inviting. Where would this journey truly lead? The following day dawned crisp and clear, an unusual brightness that felt wrong against the weight of their shared grief. Emily stood in front of her bathroom mirror, inspecting her reflection. Her eyes felt puffy, and the weight of her father's revelation smothered her like an unyielding fog. She splashed water on her face, hoping to wash away the remnants of last night's turmoil. But as the water ran, her mind swirled with questions. What did she even want to find? If they pursued answers, would it make things clearer or muddier? She sighed, feeling lost in a world that had flipped upside down. Downstairs, Jake idly flipped through family photos, each image echoing with the laughter and warmth of a family that felt worlds away now. Their father had been a pillar, a constant in their lives. But who had he really been? The thought gnawed at him. How could someone so close remain a stranger? Hey, Emily said softly, startling him from his thoughts. Hey, he replied, forcing a smile, but it didn't linger. Want to go through some of this stuff together? He gestured to the stack of photo albums on the table that they leafed through the memories. The laughter of their childhood slipped from behind the pages, but it became quickly overshadowed by the weight of their loss. Each picture held a memory of safety, innocence, but now, an abyss lay beneath the surface. Do you think Mom knew? Emily murmured, tracing her finger across a picture of their father, radiant and carefree. I don't know, Jake replied, frustration clear in his voice. It's hard to believe she wouldn't have noticed something. But if she did, why didn't she say anything? The question hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. Tom entered the kitchen just then, bright with energy, yet his usual enthusiasm faltered at the sight of their somber expressions. What's up? Just trying to sort through it all, Jake replied, motions aimed at the albums. Can I help? Tom offered, his eyes flicking to the album, then back to them. There was a sincerity in his voice that felt comforting, almost like a shield against their troubled thoughts. I think we need to go to that group, Emily blurted out, surprising herself with the strength of her own voice. It's what we talked about. It's time to gather pieces of the puzzle. And as the words left her lips, something shifted in the atmosphere. A spark of determination ignited, an understanding that perhaps, to confront the truth, they needed to let the past guide them. As the trio stepped into the sunlight, the warmth enveloped them, but shadows still lingered within. They walked together, each footstep echoing the uncharted territory before them. Emily felt her heart quicken with every step. The meeting was scheduled for that evening. They drove in silence, a mixture of excitement and dread swirling inside. What would they uncover? Who were the people that had known their father outside the walls of their home? Arriving at the community center, they stood in front of the entrance for a moment, uncertainty hanging heavily. The weathered sign above the door seemed to beckon them, a gateway into the unknown. Are you ready? Tom asked, voice steadier than he felt. Ready? Emily replied, her gaze fixed on the door, heart pounding. I don't think I can ever be ready. As they stepped inside, the room filled with a low hum of conversation and laughter. Familiar faces they had never seen before surrounded them. Each of these new people held pieces of their father's life that they didn't yet understand. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that, in this maze of familiarity and strange faces, deeper secrets lay waiting, secrets that could either heal them or break them further. As they began to approach a small group, a voice intercepted them, a familiar one that wrapped around the air like a vine, and Emily froze, realizing it was someone she hadn't expected to find in this place at all. Emily? Jake? Tom? What are you doing here? The shock coursed through her like a tidal wave, crashing against her resolve. What if this person knew everything about their father? What if she had the truth they were desperately searching for? And in that moment, Emily knew the journey was only just beginning. Emily's heart raced. The voice belonged to Sarah, her father's former colleague, and a woman who had always seemed larger than life. Sarah had attended family gatherings, shared laughter and stories, but now stood before them like a ghost from another world. "What are you doing here?" Emily echoed, her voice a mix of surprise and apprehension. She felt the weight of Sarah's gaze, heavy with unspoken words. "I came to support some friends who are going through similar things. I was shocked when I heard about your dad." Sarah's eyes glistened, a mixture of sadness and something else. Was it guilt? Jake stepped slightly in front of Emily, protective as he often was. "Did you know him well? Did you know about all of this?" His voice cracked, betraying the tight facade he tried to maintain. Sarah's lips pressed into a thin line as she glanced at the floor. "I knew your dad better than you may think. But there are things, complicated things." Her words were cautious, as if she were stepping on fragile ice. Emily felt a swell of hope and fear at the same time. "What do you mean? You can tell us. We need to understand." Before Sarah could respond, a loud laugh broke through the heavy atmosphere. Several people had gathered around the refreshments table, tossing jokes across the room. It felt chaotic, yet the laughter felt foreign in that vibrancy. Their grief hovered too closely for comfort. Why don't we sit down?" Sarah suggested, motioning towards a quieter corner, the shadows casting long shapes in the warm light. As they settled into chairs, Sarah took a breath, steadying herself. "Your dad cared deeply about his family, but he was also a complex man. He struggled with things few might understand." Emily's stomach tightened. "Struggled? What kind of things?" Sarah glanced around, ensuring that no one was within earshot before continuing. "Love, loyalty, secrets. Your father had friends, part of a circle he never brought home. It wasn't just about work for him. People trusted him, leaned on him, and he had burdens that he never shared with you." Every word shattered the stability of the memory she cradled close. This wasn't just walls crumbling. It was a house exploding. "But why?" Jake interjected, emotion rising in his voice. "Why wouldn't he talk to us? To Mom?" It was his way of coping. In his mind, he protected you by keeping it all buried. It was a toxic cycle he felt trapped in, Sarah explained. The tears that brimmed her eyes mirrored their own. Emily clenched her hands, a tumult of emotions surging through her. "You knew him. You knew him better than we did." "Not better." Sarah's voice dipped into a whisper, regret seeping through. "Just differently. I wish I had pushed harder, asked more questions. I lost a friend to his silence, and I never wanted to lose another." The confession hung in the air like a haunting melody. It wasn't just about understanding their father anymore. It was about realizing the echoes of his life extended far beyond their family. "What do you want us to know?" Emily asked desperately, the weight of it all settling on her shoulders. In that moment, Sarah leaned forward, her voice a soft flicker in the chaos around them. "He loved you both. And there are more stories, hidden pieces, stories he wanted to tell, but felt he couldn't. You deserve to know the complete truth." What more was there to uncover? As the room buzzed around them, Emily felt a new urgency growing inside her. "Will you help us?" she asked, hope rooting itself deeper within her. Sarah nodded, her expression resolute. "Absolutely. But first, we need to face what we've hidden from ourselves." With that, the stakes shifted. The journey wasn't just about seeking answers. It was about unraveling layers of pain, regret, and perhaps a chance for healing. Emily, Jake, and Tom shared a glance, long moments of unspoken communication passing between them. A collective breath, an acknowledgement of the road ahead filled with shadows, but also flickers of light. And as Emily prepared for the next chapter of their journey, she felt the weight of their decisions pressing in. What awaited them in these hidden stories? Secrets too powerful to contain, too sharp to ignore? "Let us find out," she whispered, exchanging another look with her brothers, knowing they were all in this together. But as they stood up to dive deeper, another voice called out, a familiar yet foreboding sound. "Wait, you can't leave yet." And with that, Emily's heart sank, anticipating the confrontation of truths that might change everything she thought she knew. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the voice sliced through the murmuring crowd. It was Mark, their father's closest friend, his eyes shadowed and tense. He stepped forward, his demeanor urgent as if he held back a storm. "You don't know the whole story," he said, voice low but commanding attention. Jake instinctively moved closer to Emily, a protective wall against the sudden tension that thickened the air. Tom shot a glance at Emily, uncertainty etched on his face. A shiver ran down her spine. She straightened herself, forcing a steadiness into her voice. "What do you mean, Mark?" Mark's face was torn between resolve and fear, every muscle tensed. "There's so much you don't understand about your dad. Things I should have told you long ago, but I didn't know how." "Then tell us now," Jake demanded, his tone sharp but filled with desperation. "We need to know. All of it." Mark glanced around the room, where laughter echoed like mocking ghosts amidst their somber reality. He nodded curtly, drawing them to a corner away from prying ears. The shadows seemed to deepen around them as they huddled close. Intimacy forged in the heat of anxiety. "It started years ago," Mark began, his voice barely a whisper. "Your father got involved with something bigger than he could handle. An underground network connections that crossed lines you can't imagine. His role was to help people, to protect them. I always admired him for that. But it cost him. It cost your family, too." Emily's heart raced, the weight of his words pressing down even harder than the loss they currently faced. What kind of things exactly? He was drawn into a world of debt and danger, of secrets that came with a heavy price. Mark's eyes glistened as memories played across his face, shadows of fear and regret. He kept it hidden, thinking he was sparing you all from harm. But the truth is, it kept you close and yet so far away. What else don't we know? Tom's question lingered in the air, the unspoken plea for clarity hanging like a fragile thread. Some of those connections weren't what he wanted you to see. Your dad was part of things that could destroy anyone's faith in the people they love. Mark continued, the gravity of their father's choices suffocating them. I can't promise you'll find peace with what I'm about to say. There are branches of his life that could shake everything you believed about him. How could he do this? Emily whispered, her throat tight, emotions swirling. How could he let this happen? To us? Mark opened his mouth, then closed it, wrestling with his thoughts. He wanted to be a hero, but even heroes have their shadows. In the end, he felt he had to choose between saving his family and saving himself. He thought he was protecting you. Protecting us or deceiving us? Jake's reply was sharp, forcing all of them to confront the harsh reality of the situation. Both, Mark replied quietly, pain etched into his features. And I think he battled with it every day. He loved you so fiercely that it hurt him to let you see the truth. But the truth has a way of finding its way to the surface, doesn't it? In that moment, the air felt electric. Emily glanced around the room, where the voices of wedding guests floated like muffled echoes. It was a bitter reminder that life continued beyond their pain, even as the three of them now stood at the precipice of revelation. What do we do now? Tom asked, his voice barely breaking through the hush that had descended. Emily closed her eyes for a moment, rolling through each piece of the new puzzle in her mind. They had to dig deeper. They owed it to their father and to themselves to uncover the truth he buried. We find out everything. We break down these secrets, together. Mark nodded solemnly, but Emily could see the uncertainty lingering in his eyes. What you discover, it might tear you apart. Or bring us closer, she countered, her heart pounding with unwavering determination. They prepared to plunge into the depths of their father's concealed life. An unexpected pang of fear wrestled with her resolve. What would they find? Would the truths be too much to bear? Suddenly, the room grew quieter, and a familiar face emerged from the crowd, one they never expected to see. I'm not letting you figure this out alone, Sarah said, stepping forward, her fire igniting a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. What are you doing? Jake asked, skepticism creeping in. I'm here to help. There's a lot more at stake than you realize, Sarah insisted, her voice steady and firm. Emily's heart surged with a mix of fear and gratitude. Hope flooded back, and she felt the knot within her start to loosen. Maybe, just maybe, they could uncover the truths of their father together. But seeing Sarah's determined expression reminded her of the wait still ahead, answers mingled with potential heartache. Let us get started, Emily said, fear melting into fierce resolve. Yet as she prepared for the journey ahead, she couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were watching, waiting for the right moment to reveal their secrets. What else lay hidden in the echoes of their father's life? As they stepped forward, ready to confront the darkness together, Emily sensed they weren't alone. Something stirring, something that might change everything. Emily could feel her pulse quickening, a steady thrum in her ears as she locked eyes with Sarah. There was an unspoken bond between them, a connection forged in shared histories and the pain of loss. Emily nodded, steeling herself for what lay ahead. They couldn't afford to falter. Mark led the way, guiding them out of the bustling reception hall, down a narrow hallway lined with faded photographs. Each frame told a story, happy moments frozen in time. Pictures of family vacations, birthday parties, and milestones. But the smiles felt hollow now, shadowed by the weight of this new revelation about their father. "Where do we start?" Jake asked, his voice breaking the heavy silence. They paused to stand together, a united front against the unknown. "His office," Mark replied, his brow furrowed with concern. "There are things there I've seen. Documents. Contacts he kept hidden. It could be the key." The thought of rifling through their father's belongings sent a chill down Emily's spine. Those office walls had always felt safe, a place filled with laughter and learning. Now, they felt like a crypt, filled with secrets that could unravel everything. Still, she felt a flicker of determination rise. "Let us go," she said, her voice steady. They moved through the dimly lit hall, each step echoing in the quiet. Every click of their shoes felt like a heartbeat, building suspense with every stride. Mark paused at a door, glancing back at the three of them. "You ready for this?" Jake cracked his knuckles, the worry in his expression conflicting with his fierce determination. Tom swallowed hard, his eyes darting between Emily and Sarah, seeking reassurance. "More than ready," Emily responded, pushing him lightly aside. She turned the handle and stepped inside. The room felt different than she remembered. Dust motes danced in the slanted rays of sunlight, but the air was still thick with unanswered questions. Mark stepped in behind her, and they spent a moment absorbing the familiar surroundings. Desks piled high with papers, a bookshelf cluttered with old books, and family photographs, talismans of happier times. But one thing stood out: an old wooden box on the corner of the desk, slightly ajar. Emily approached it cautiously, the tarnished metal clasp giving way to curiosity. She lifted the lid with trembling fingers. Inside, she found maps, names scribbled on crumpled paper, and a faded photograph of a woman none of them recognized. A shiver darted down her spine. "Who is she?" Emily murmured, holding the photograph up for everyone to see. "Just a name." Mark hesitated, tension crackling in the air. "But it's a name I've heard before, connected to your father's past." "What does this mean?" Tom asked, concern etched on his features. "How deep does this go?" "It means we have to dig deeper," Sarah interjected, her voice holding an edge of urgency that sparked a fire within them all. "There are people out there who might be connected to these documents." Emily felt the weight of Sarah's words settle over them. Those connections could lead to danger, something they were woefully unprepared for. But they also needed answers. "Let us split up the work," Emily proposed, feeling a hot determination surge through her. "Mark, you take the papers. Jake, check the computer. Tom and I will search the desk for anything else that stands out." They moved with purpose, urgency hammering at their hearts. Emily rifled through drawers, her hands shaking as she searched for something, anything, that could explain the shadows her father had cast. Then she felt a small envelope pushed tightly into the corner. With a swift motion, she pulled it free, knowing deep down that this could be the turning point they were searching for. "What's in there?" Jake asked, looking up from the screen where he was typing frantically. "I don't know yet," Emily replied, a mix of fear and excitement swirling in her gut. "But we're about to find out." She opened the envelope, her breath hitching as her eyes scanned the contents. The first page was a letter, addressed to her father, but unsigned. The urgency of the word struck her like a lightning bolt. In bold letters, it warned of betrayal, chaos, and a family in peril. "Guys, you need to see this," she called, her voice tremulous but fierce. As her siblings and Mark gathered around, a sinking feeling began to grow. They had uncovered only the surface of a deeper, darker underbelly. Questions swirled in her mind. Who wrote this? What betrayal was being foretold? As the weight of the revelation loomed over them, Emily realized one crucial truth. They were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The answers lay ahead, hidden in the shadows of their father's life, waiting to be revealed. What they didn't know was that the storm was closer than they thought, and it was about to unleash its fury. Emily's hands shook as she held the letter, the weight of it pulling her down into an abyss she wasn't sure she was ready to face. The air in the room changed, becoming thick with the unspoken fears and uncharted paths stretching out before them. "What does it say?" Mark asked, his voice edged with concern as he leaned closer. "Listen," Emily said, her voice a whisper as she began to read aloud. "This is a warning to you. A betrayal is coming. Trust no one. The past is alive, and it seeks to tear us apart." Her voice trembled with every word, and she paused, glancing at her siblings. Their faces, a mixture of fear and determination, mirrored her own inner turmoil. "Who would betray Dad?" Tom asked, his brow knit. "He was always the one looking out for everyone. Why would anyone want to hurt him?" "Maybe he was keeping secrets to protect us," Sarah suggested, crossing her arms as she leaned back against the bookshelf. She looked thoughtfully at the picture of the woman in the wooden box. "Or to protect himself." An uneasy silence settled in the room, every heart racing with a mixture of dread and curiosity. The shadows of their past began looming larger, threatening to pull them down into a history they never knew existed. "Let us think this through," Mark said, taking a step back to gain perspective. "There has to be more. Why would Dad keep this from us? And who was that woman?" Emily's eyes drifted back to the wooden box. "We should find out who she is. Maybe it connects to whatever this betrayal is." But just as she spoke those words, a sudden noise echoed from the hall. It was faint, a footstep, perhaps, but enough to spike the tension in the air. "Did you hear that?" Jake whispered, his voice barely containing a blend of anxiety and adrenaline. "Stay alert," Mark instructed, his tone authoritative as he headed towards the office door. "We might not be alone." Emily's heart sank. They had just begun unraveling the truth about their father, and now they might be facing danger. The urgency weighed heavy on her, every second feeling like lit dynamite, ready to explode. Mark slowly opened the door, and they all peered into the darkened hallway. Silence. It felt as if the house itself held its breath, waiting. "Maybe it was just the building settling," Tom suggested, but even he looked unconvinced. "Or someone is looking for answers too," Sarah added, glancing nervously over her shoulder, as if to punctuate her words. Another sound cut through the silence, this one louder. A door creaked somewhere down the corridor, sending a shiver down Emily's spine. "Let us focus on what we need to find," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We can't let fear stop us." Mark nodded. "Right. We need to figure out this mess. If our father's past is as dangerous as this letter suggests, we need to be prepared." The room buzzed with a mixture of determination and fresh anxiety. They all shifted, suddenly aware of the fragile situation they were in. "What is our next step?" Jake asked, his expression serious. "Check the other drawers and see if there's anything linking Dad to that woman," Emily said, her voice pumped with adrenaline. "We can't overthink this." As they turned to go back to their search, the door swung shut behind them, as if an unseen presence had been keeping watch. They exchanged glances that held a silent agreement they had to keep going. They couldn't turn back now. Rifling through stacks of old papers and hidden documents felt like peeling back layers of a long-buried secret. Each page revealed fragments of a life they never knew. And then, nestled beneath a pile of documents, Emily found another slip of paper, this one even smaller. She reached for it, her fingers trembling. There was something compelling about it. The sharp edge of anticipation pricked her skin as she moved to uncover its contents. What was she about to reveal? As her eyes scanned the words, a single gasp escaped her lips. "Guys, you won't believe what this says," and just like that, the family stood on the brink of the awakening storm, unaware of how much closer danger lurked and how each revelation could draw them deeper into a web of secrets that had an expiration date. The storm was brewing, but for the Thompsons, it was about to unleash. Emily held the small slip of paper, her breath caught in her throat. It felt heavier than it should, pulling all three of them closer. "It says the meeting is tomorrow. You know what you have to do. Trust no one." Her voice trembled, filling the room with an electric tension. Jake leaned in, eyes narrowed. "A meeting? About what? Who is he supposed to trust?" Emily felt the weight of the document crescendoing around them. "I don't know. We need to dig deeper." She tossed it among the others, her heart racing. Mark stepped forward, urgency painting his features. "If your dad was involved in something dangerous, if he was truly being threatened, he may have put these things in place to protect you. We need to know what happened at this meeting. Tom shook his head, disbelief coloring his face. What if it's too late? What if someone is already waiting for him? Silence fell heavily, and the uncertainty loomed over them. Would they uncover their father's struggles, or be swallowed by the darkness he left behind? We need to face this together, Emily declared, adrenaline surging through her. They were not just uncovering their father's life, they were defending his memory, striving to reclaim the love and laughter hidden beneath layers of secrets. As they continued to sift through papers, Emily felt her resolve strengthen. The darkness breathing down their necks made this journey more meaningful. With each disclosure, they honored Daniel's legacy by bringing forth the complexity of his life. Then, just as the tension peaked, they heard footsteps echoing down the hall. It wasn't just a creak or a whisper this time, it was heavy, intentional. Suddenly, they were on high alert, adrenaline coursing through their veins. "Hide," Mark hissed. They ducked behind the desk, hearts thumping wildly as they held their breaths. The door creaked open. A shadow fell across the room, the silhouette of an overpowering figure stepping inside. For a moment, Emily thought she would explode from the heightened senses. Then, she squinted, hoping to get a glimpse of the intruder. Anxiety wrapped tightly around her chest, stifling any voice in her throat. Who was it? Just as a moment of clarity broke through the panic, a familiar voice broke through the stillness. "What are you doing here?" Mark stepped from behind the desk, his demeanor shifting from guarded to shocked. Emily blinked in disbelief. It was their mother. "We didn't want you to see this," he exclaimed. "What is going on?" She pushed, urgency brewing in her voice. "Mom, we found some documents, things about Dada's past." "Dangerous things," Jake explained, panic lacing his tone. Their mother's face softened, confusion and understanding washing over her features. "I wanted to protect you, but the truth needs to be told." Her gaze flickered, reflecting years of pain in her eyes. "Your father kept so many secrets, but in the end, it was for you. He believed that if you knew the truth, you might be able to fight against whatever battles were looming." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she processed her mother's revelation. Was everything they uncovered really an act of love? Her father hiding to keep them safe, but also holding them in darkness? "I can't let you take this journey without me. You deserve to know," their mother said, her voice cracking. "And you should hear it from me." With that, the weight of their relationship shifted, the shared heartache pulling them closer instead of pushing them apart. "Tell us everything, Mom," Emily urged, heart racing. Every word from their mother held the key to understanding their father's complexity. Over the next hour, their mother wove the tapestry of Daniel's life, recounting tales of his sacrifices, the affiliations that strayed into darker territories, and the moments of tenderness he shared with his family. Each story cracked a piece of the facade, revealing dimensions of love intertwined with pain. The clouds outside began to mirror their emotional turmoil, thick with anticipation. Each revelation felt like a new storm brewing, but this time, they stood united, ready to face the tempest together. His legacy is about more than battling shadows. It's about love managing to break through, their mother concluded, tears pooling in her eyes as they held each other's hands. A silence enveloped them, heavy yet filled with a new kind of certainty. The journey ahead was daunting, but together they were stronger than the secrets that had once bound their father. It would be a struggle, but one worth facing for the sake of healing. The rain began to fall outside, echoing their emotional storm. But as lightning cracked the sky, Emily felt a flicker of hope. They were ready to confront whatever lay before them, to unveil the secrets and honor the father they knew, and the man he was hidden behind shadows. "This is only the beginning," Jake said softly, a new determination lighting up his eyes. They shared a nod of agreement, stepping forward together, towards the unknown. As they left the office armed with new knowledge, Emily felt her heart swell. They would rewrite the stigma of their father's struggles and reclaim their story. By facing the darkness, they would find the dawn. And so, hand in hand, the Thompson family stepped out into the rain, ready to embrace the wild, beautiful journey that lay ahead. If you're ready to uncover your own truth and journey with us, then you need to subscribe now to not miss out on the next exclusive stories. Please leave a like to feed the algorithm and show your love. Are you feeling struck by this transformation? Comment below with your thoughts what moments resonated with you the most. And don't wait, not even one more second, share this story with at least 5 friends who need a reminder that they are not alone in their struggles. Only true fans understand the power of support. So let us build this community together.